Okay. So Madhukar Prabhu kindly sent a little intro to Anki and what was the term that he was using? Um, active
Active recall
recall,
and
active
space.
recall, and spaced repetition. So just a little introduction to that idea. So this research has actually existed for more than 100 years. This idea that we forget things at a fixed rate. I wonder if that rate would change as Kali Yuga progresses. Anyway, there's a formula here that's been known for quite some time. So based on this formula, there's been a lot of research of methods. So I'm sure some of us have used these sorts of flashcards before. I know a godbrother of mine always had a stack of flashcards for learning shlokas. We had the shloka on one side, then the translation, synonyms on the other side. So there's a way to optimize using flashcards, and that optimization is called spaced repetition. So there's a little example of one system here, just to give us a sort of practical example. So say you have 10 cards in this box, and you study a card, and then you get it right, then it goes in the next box. So box one, you'll review every single day. And box two, you'll review maybe every 3 days or 5 days. And so maybe box three is once a week, four is once a month, and five is maybe every 6 months. So every time you get, every time you're able to successfully recall the answer on the other side of the card, then it moves to the next box. Every time you get it wrong, then it moves back. So say if you've studied something and it's moved to box two, and then a week later you go to review it and, oh, I've forgotten that again. You move it back and you study it every single day until you can recall it again. So does that make sense so far, what I'm saying?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So this is the idea of spaced repetition. So these days, as we saw, there's a clear formula for this. We can just see. Here we go. So you can see what happens. What they found is, as when you study something after a certain amount of time, what happens? The rate at which you forget it decreases. Whereas you might have forgotten almost completely after 3 or 4 days. After the second and third study, you find you retain that a lot longer. And after the sixth review or seventh review, spaced at the right interval, you'll be recalling things a lot longer until it's in your permanent memory. So this is the idea of spaced repetition. So there's a lot of apps and things online, such as Memrise. If anyone's a language learning buff, they've definitely come across Memrise. Quizlet is another very common one. However, I prefer to use Anki for my students because as far as making cards goes, it's very customizable. So yeah,
And
you
it's
can.
free. Quizlet costs money.
Yeah, the other ones also cost money. So if anyone's got an Android phone, you can download the app. I'll share the link in the group so everyone can download that. So that's just introducing the platform. So now just to show you a little bit of what I've done. And then if you're interested, I can show you a little bit of how I've done that. So I'll just share a different screen now for a second. Okay, so here we have the Anki app. So what we have here are a number of different decks. So a deck, if you will, is just those cards, the flashcards. So each flashcard presents a question, and then you turn it over to see the answer. So let's have a look at that. So I've done two.
Available for on computer and also for Android and iOS. This app, what we're seeing right now, and it's also
also a web app. because actually I should mention that if anyone's got an iPhone, there's actually a paid app, but you don't need to pay for the app. You can just use the web app. So don't pay money for the app. Use the web app even if you've got an iPhone. So just I thought to mention that if anyone needs help with that, then myself or Madhukar could probably help out. Madhukar's got an iPhone, so he knows all that sort of stuff. So let's look at this. Let's see if we can do some of these. So let's start studying now. So we've got a new deck, 12 new cards. I've only added a few, only as far as we got up to last week. So let's start this. So this is the question card. It's showing you here's a nama, and the challenge here is to decline this nama and to remember the sutra, remember the formula as we're doing with Paramasunda Prabhu. So it's giving us the nama to decline, and it's telling us we want to do it in the first Pratham Vibhakti in Ekavachan. It's giving all that information in as many ways as possible. And I should also mention, Paramasunda Prabhu, if you think it's ideal or necessary to add Bengali Lipi as well, that's very, very easy. But easy if I do it now, not once it's already done. So let me know if you think that's necessary for any of your students in other groups, or if anyone in this group would prefer to have Bangla Lipi as well, just let me know and I can easily add that. The reason I didn't is
this addition of Bangla wouldn't do any harm. We'll have all three.
all three, yeah?
Yeah, would be good. It would be a universal thing then.
It will take up a little bit of space, but I think it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to have. So we can easily add Bangla into this, no problem.
Right.
So who can remember the sutra for Pratham Vibhakti? Madhukar.
Isn't ready for a quiz yet.
So let's say, okay, this first one, I haven't studied my sutras very well. Of course, there's not Sararamyo Vishnu Sargo Vishnu Padante, right? That's the only sutra we have to know for this Pratham Vibhakti. And here we've got the example there. So all the examples I've taken straight out of Matsyavatar Prabhu's book. And that's what this is based on. This is based on the examples that are given there in the Vritti, in Srila Jiva Goswami's Vritti. So I've just cut and pasted these in and built these cards around that. So let's say, okay, I need to review this. I haven't quite got that sutra, then I might do it again if I really was stumped. And depending on our response, it will show this card to us again very soon. In this case, this is the first viewing. So if we were really stumped, it will show us again in a minute. So we'll go through all the other cards and then we'll come back to this card. If there's a lot of cards, then, it will come after a couple of cards. Or if we click on good, then it will come up at the end of all the cards, And if we find this really easy, yeah, okay, easy. I know this one. Sararamayo Vishnu Sargo Vishnu Padante, easy. So it will show us again in 4 days. The next time we see it, these numbers will change. It will be 5 days or 6 days later, and gradually the interval. So the trick with Anki is to use it every single day and to be very honest in your answers. If you're really struggling it, then do review it again, because then it really works. If you're just lazy and go, oh, okay, easy, what you'll find is in a week, you have a big stack of cards that you're not very clear on that you have to work through, and it will be boring and grueling. So it won't be effective to do it that way. So that's the secret. Study it every day and be honest in your feedback, and then let the algorithm do its work. But just for
sorry, if you do it every day, also then you don't need to spend that much time on it, right? Like it will only be like 10 minutes or something, whatever, and then, but if you do miss days, then it starts to build up and you have to spend a lot of time on it. So
yeah, your number of reviewed cards kind of gets backlogged. I made the mistake of trying to do hundreds of charts in Anki cards a few years ago, and I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Anki cards backlogged. That is not the way to study it. So as we go through, again, this is the same one, same procedure, same nama. So again, second crease, shu o just, so we got o, and what's the sutra for that? It's o doye o, right? So quite straightforward, as we go through. Hang on, I'll just adjust the side. The reason, one of the reasons I didn't put in Bangla is because it gets quite big, but that's okay. It can be, it's scrollable, so no problem. So yeah, this is basic. And I think this is one of the best ways to review, because here, we look at it and then we have to decline. So we have to remember the sutra. I was trying to do this with the other app, the Sandhi app, and I was realizing how useful it was just before hitting the answer to go through and like, what is the actual sutra for this? After the exam, what do they say in Bangla? Morar kale harinam, right? It was the time of the exam I realized, oh, I got to really study this Sandhi better. And then I started using this app, and I think Chandra Prabhuji, you had mentioned it would be ideal to have an app
Right.
for our purposes also. So this is all the same exercise as in declining the Sandhi. So if we go back here, we have another deck, right? And it's as from a different perspective. This time, we have the declension, we have to identify it. And again, identify what was the sutra that got us there. So again, Krishna, you'll notice this is all in order. But the very first time you view a card, it's in order. But the next time when it comes back for review, it's going to be in a random order. So it becomes more challenging like that. So so yeah, it's engaging your recall in a multi-dimensional way. So again, it's the same information, it's just giving you a different prompt. We have the declension. Now it's asking us, okay, how did we get there? Obviously it comes from Krishna Nama, but what was the sutra? What is the actual declension there? And you can see these are all the ones we've full of classes. So one more thing, I've just got a quick sample here, is that Prabhu, you were mentioning Sandhi.
Yeah, the Sandhis.
So just a quick example, basically the same thing. So again, Krishna plus Agre, what would it be? Anyone want to tell the sutra? Very easy one, come on.
Dashavatara.
Atara Trivikramo, Dashavatari Katmake Militwa Trivikrama, right? Krishna Agre, right? And as a separate deck, I was thinking to do it as a separate exercise, but I've just put it here for the example. So one exercise would be joining the Sandhi, and one would be separating the Sandhi. Just as here, you've got one exercise which is declining the noun, and the other is identifying the declension. So I thought it would maybe be a good idea to do it like that. If anyone's got any suggestions in how to do that, I'm all ears, but that's how I've done it so far. So at this point, any questions or comments?
Yeah, one thing is that in one of my initial batches, there was one devotee, and we were studying actually the Brihat version of Harinamamrit Vyakaranam, and Brihat version has around 3200 sutras altogether. So the Shabda Prakaranam and so that devotee from US, his name is Ujjwal Prabhu, very brilliant actually. He introduced me to this Anki app at that point of time, like 3 years before, and he, through practicing, via this Anki app, he practiced sandhis the Shabda Prakaranam and the Akhyata Prakaranam, altogether like around 1,000 plus sutras. And he's damn confident about any sutra, any derivation, any declension you ask him, including the Akhyatas also. I mean, to be confident in Akhyata is something big. Just by using the Anki app, like on a regular basis, he used to make his deck card every now and then, and so this is really helpful. I mean, I could say from him, looking at him. So, can you teach how to make deck cards, like if one wants to?
Okay. I I can show you what I'm doing. Prabhu, there's okay, in a basic way, um, there you see, Anki is very diverse, so it can be very, very simple and it can be very complex. And I've done something which is, you know, sort of intermediate complex. It's used a little bit of programming, a little bit of HTML just for the set out and for the layout and that. But the basic card, I mean, the basic card is like this. It has a front and a back, you know. So the most basic one you could cut and paste, you could type in the sutra here and the meaning there or the application. I was thinking it's more useful to not have the sutra as the prompt itself, but have the context. That's why I was taking the examples. But as you saw, I've done something a little bit more complex than that. I've made my own customized fields.
Are you sharing something? I mean, I can just see
Oh,
this.
sorry. It's not showing that. Okay, let me show you something else. Yeah. So what I've actually done, uh, I've imported from a spreadsheet. Now this can get a little bit technical. So, you know, depending on the number of fields, I actually made a lot of customized cards for Anki. And so you've got a lot of YouTube videos on online of how to use and how to customize Anki. It can get very complex, but the basic thing is if you just have two columns, question and answer, right? One will be the question, one with the front of the card, one will be the back. But if you want to do all that formatting and stuff, it, you know, you can go through and do it for each card manually, but that takes a long time. Otherwise, if you customize the card, it uses a little bit of HTML. So I have used a bit of code in making these. So this is the spreadsheet that I've used to actually create the cards, you know. So each one's a separate field and is formatted differently. So I made that template in Anki. So it gets a little bit complicated if you want to have the format and layout a little bit like that. But if you just want to keep it simple, you can just open up the app and see it's hard because every part of the app has a different part of the screen to share. So I'm just clicking on, so what I've done is I've opened up the app and I've clicked on browse. Yeah. So if you see here, this is my deck of cards and these are all the different fields and each different field is formatted differently, right? I want to do the formatting. It gets a little bit technical as you can see, but the basic, hang on, the basic card, I'll just have to jump around here a bit. See, because the way Anki works, it opens up a new screen. Here we go. So the card, the template I was using has all these different fields. Each one of these fields corresponds to a different column in Excel or in a spreadsheet, you know. But the basic card just looks like this. It's just two fields, right? A front and a back. And you can just type in, you know, your question here, and your answer there.
Yeah.
And that's the basic card. That's very easy to make. you can format it, you can change the colors, you know.
Hmm.
And that's the basic thing. I think there is a way to access the HTML from here. Anyway, I can't remember the shortcut. But that's the basic thing. So making a simple Anki card probably is very, very easy. But if
Right.
you want to do a lot of cards with formatting, it gets a little bit more involved. And if someone's doing that, I'm happy to give whatever help I can. I'm learning myself, you know. I'm always experimenting and creating cards for my own students. But let me know if there's something you want to work on, and we can throw ideas back and forth. For some of the coding things, I cheated and I got some help from ChatGPT-3. I said, okay, I want to do this. What's the formula I use in a spreadsheet? And said, oh, have you tried this formula? Have you tried that formula? So ChatGPT-3 is also really useful for, you know, coding things like that.
Hmm.
So I just show my spreadsheets again. So what I've also got ready is this the Sandhi the spreadsheet for the Sandhi Prakaranam. So I wanted to ask if someone wants to help and go through Matsya Avatar's book here, and let's say just we take these examples and we copy them, and then we paste them over here. You'll see what happens here. So it's very important that the format is accurate, right? What happens is automatically the sutra comes here. We've got the sutra here, and it breaks it up. So if someone is willing to put in a little time to cut and paste some of these examples in here. Whoops, this should.
How did you get it to paste everywhere automatically like that? Like, how did that? That was like magic.
Looks
He
like
had
a
customized
formula.
it.
So here it is. It's using Madhuka, you remember when I was learning regex for this? I actually wrote a code which converts Bengali script into a phonetic script. So because Bengali isn't a phonetic sounding language, so I learned to do a bit of regex there, and I got some help from ChatGPT-3 to fix the errors. So it just basically extracts each part, and this just extracts the beginning of the string. This extracts the middle word, and it extracts the number and looks up the appropriate sutra here. So if someone wants to go through and actually cut and paste all those sutras in, then I can export those into Anki and have a whole set ready. And I think this is probably the biggest help I can do. If probably you have a set that you want to do, an idea, then the thing is, if you get it set up well, then the execution is very easy. You know, if you know what you want, and then you have it, I can help with a template for Anki cards, and you know, you just have it all in a spreadsheet, and then you export it into Anki, and that's sometimes a little bit fiddly, but doable. And yeah, then we can easily, you know, as soon as all these are cut and pasted in here, we can have a full set of practice for the whole Sandhi Prakaranam based on Matsya Avatar's, and the example in Matsya Avatar Prabhu's edition. So yeah, that's my little spiel.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. So this Anki app is really, I mean, personally, I haven't explored it much because I have studied myself in a traditional way, you know, memorizing. This the manual memorization part, which we did. But I have been hearing about this, the glories of Anki, the Anki Mahatmya. And when I saw Ujjwal Prabhu doing that, I mean, Akhyata is really challenging, and especially the Brihad version, Lord of Sutras, and he's right and left into the Akhyata now, doing Anki, because he would make cards. I've like in India, it's something new, but outside it's very common. This Anki, it's very commonly
Mm.
used, this Anki thing, to retain. Personally, I'm thinking of using it for doing Gita for myself. I'm thinking of
Oh,
doing
Gita.
Gita memorization.
Right. So probably the thing I would suggest about Anki is how you uh what prompt you use, you know, because you could put the shlok there and then the explanation of the commentary or something, or you could just put a hint.
I'm just thinking of chapter number and shlok number, like as a prompt, as a question.
Right, right. Because one thing, like Madhukar was mentioning, this active recall, the idea is like if you have it engaged in a context. So if you give like a contextual clue about
Right,
that,
right.
then it makes the learning a lot deeper.
Hmm.
Something because knowing the shlok number isn't always very relevant
Uh-huh.
in the philosophical
Right.
application of it.
Yeah.
So that would be my that's what I really think is the value in the deck that I've created here, is that it's based on the example and you're learning the sutra just like the Sandhi app that you gave us, Prabhu. That's where the inspiration came for this. I thought, no, this is the way to learn for me personally,
Right.
with an example first and then try and apply the sutra actively in context. So that would be my big thing about Anki. You can use Anki badly, and I've definitely done that before with big tables, endless decks of tables that go nowhere. So
Okay, so the purpose is devotees retain the sutras, the concepts of the sutras, and the forms. Ultimately, that what is we're doing this for, Anki and all. So if you can do that normally, that's fine. And if you want to do that, nicely, so Anki would be of great help. So Prabhuji is there, WhatsApp group is there. You just message him. I see Prabhu is always like very quick in responding. So
so Prabhu, I was thinking to do four separate parts, depending on like Sarveshwaranta Purushottam Ling as one deck
right.
and so on and so forth. But maybe I'll start with a mini deck just with like the Krishna, like Krishna and Rama examples, and I'll
Right.
share that. And I'll give some little instructions there for devotees who want to get started with that. And anyone who wants to contact me, if they need a little help getting started with Anki, just let me know. I might take a couple of days because I'll put the bangla in, so that will take me a little time.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. So
Thank you
we'll
for
see
letting
you
me know
tomorrow.
that, bro. And I hope devotees benefit from this.
Thank you, Prabhu. So we'll resume tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण बहुत धन्यवाद मैडम
Hare Krishna.
Dhanyavad.